Hey guys, Tina here and welcome to another video. Today I will be wrapping up the month of June. So in June I participated in a month-long readathon called the Sims-a-thon. It was created by Cara from Bianca Reads and it's based off of this book that I'm very much clueless about. But anyways, that was not, the knowledge about the game was not needed for this readathon, so I heavily participated. There were a few challenges and I tried to fulfill them all. I had 11 books planned for reading in the month of June, but then I ended up reading 4, and I also started 2 others, but didn't manage to finish those, so that's still something that I will have to rectify. But I'm very pleased with the result. 4 books is more than I've read in a month in a long time, so I'm very happy with that. Anyways, I will get to the books now. So there were different challenges, and for challenge number 1 in this readathon, which was to choose a household, basically you had to read a book from later in the series, so second, third, fourth book in the series, and for that I chose Arabella, the Traitor of Mars by David D. Levine. This is book 3 in the Arabella Ashby series, and book 1 is Arabella of Mars. So in that one we meet Arabella. She is from Mars, and she was born there, raised there, because this is an alternate universe to our own, so things are slightly different here, there are slight differences. We have conquered our solar system, and Arabella was born on Mars, and her family has a plantation there, and they grow this wood that is needed for building ships that enable us to travel from planet to planet. So she was born there, and she's a bit of a tomboy, which does not please her mother, so she decides to ship her off to London, and in hopes of that Arabella would be there, taught how to be a lady, basically. So yeah, things don't exactly go according to plan, because Arabella learns that there are some problems back home on Mars, and she decides to sort of smuggle herself on this ship, dress as a boy, and go back home and see what the problem is anyways. And that's how we meet her. In this one, we follow her. She's a bit older, and she basically learns that Mars is going to be conquered, and that the people there are going to be, or the race that lives there is going to be sort of, it's not enslaved necessarily, but they're going to be conquered, and she doesn't like that. She believes that they're strong and brave and intelligent species, and they deserve to be free, so she decides to help them. Basically that's how this turns, that's how this starts, and that's why she's the Traitor of Mars. And I really enjoyed this book. It was a great conclusion. I think I liked it more than the second one. Arabella is just a great, likable character. She's very strong. She's a brave heroine. She has her own mind. She's intelligent, and she does things that, she's very proactive. So I really enjoy her. I love this world. It's very, there's a bit of steampunk, and just, it's interesting to see how different cultures are shown. There's Venus, there's Earth, there's Mars, obviously probably other planets as well, but we do not get to explore those. And I really enjoyed the differences, the culture differences, the architectural, just the everything that's involves that's involved in world building, and I really enjoyed that. So I definitely recommend this series. People, I don't know why they are not picking it up or they're not talking about it, but it's a really great, enjoyable series. These books are fast reads. They're like, this one was they're rather short, like just over 300 pages, so it's a fast read, and really enjoyable. So people, please pick them up because they're great. The second book that I've read was for the challenge. Let's see, Fall in Love. I read a book with a romance element, and I decided to go with Again But Better by Christine Riccio, which was her debut novel. Obviously, probably every booktuber knows Christine. She wrote this book, and now here it is, and I decided to pick it up because I was curious about it. I followed her writing process, and I don't know, I just like Christine, I guess, because of her energy, not necessarily because of her reviews or anything like that, but she's very energetic, and I just enjoy her videos anyway. So anyway, I was intrigued by this book, and I decided to pick it up. It's a contemporary new adult, I would say. There's compared to other new adult books, there's not much sex and that stuff in it, so it's basically a rom-com. And we follow this girl Shane, who decides to go abroad for, I don't know, a few months to study there, and she's determined to do things differently than back home, because back home she was sort of shy. She didn't make many friends. She stayed in her dorm room, didn't go out, didn't socialize, and she feels that she has missed something, and she decides to rectify that. And she goes to London, and she does better. She meets friends. She travels a lot. She's a lot more social, and she sort of gets out of her shelf, and she also falls in love with this boy. And yeah, all in all, I did enjoy this book. It was nothing special. It was nothing mind-blowing, but I think it was a solid debut novel. Regarding the latter half of the book, I have to say that there was this one twist that I really didn't care for, and I wish it didn't happen, but it did, so okay. And Shane as a character was, I think she was rather like a lot of introverts, awkward and shy and just embarrassed by herself, of herself, I don't know. And she did change a lot. And what Christine says at the beginning is that this book is the book that she wanted when she was that age, when she was struggling with who she was, what she needed to be, how the society wants to act, and what society has, sort of planned for you in a way. And I think that with this book she did that she achieved what she was striving to do. And I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to pick up her next book. We shall see about that, but it was enjoyable, as I said, nothing mind-blowing, but enjoyable. The next challenge was to build a house, and for that I had to read a book set in a fantasy world, in a world that's not our own. And for this I decided to go with Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. And this is a YA fantasy book that takes place in a world that is divided between different kingdoms. It is also part of the world where demons live, and it's, people are not supposed to hunt them, but they still do. And when demons die, this smoke comes out of their mouth, and if you catch it, you can sell it, and it sort of works like a drug for humans, which of course some people do. And one of the characters that we follow is actually a demon hunter, and she's a 13-year-old girl, and she's very, very energetic, very childish still, because she's 13, and she's sort of one of the humorous elements of this book, and she's a joy to read about because she's so innocent in a way, despite the fact that her life is anything but humorous or easy or things like that. The other character that we follow is a princess from one of the kingdoms, and she lives in a kingdom that is very unfriendly to women. They're very suppressed, and they have very few freedoms that they can enjoy, and her father and brother are basically using her to just to get this good alliance, and that's sort of a sham anyways, but she's forced to go through with it and marry this prince from another kingdom that she has never seen, doesn't even know who he is, has never met him, and she's not very happy about that. She's also very intelligent, and towards the end of the book we really see her starting to flourish when she's sort of out of her father's and brother's grip. She starts to flourish, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how she what happens to her in the future. Then there is this soldier that is her guardian in a way, and he's very moral, and she sort of fancies him, and he fancies her back. So yeah, there's a bit of romance, but really just a hint. And anyways, he's very moral, and he doesn't like how things are done, what is happening in this kingdom, and he sort of figures out that there's something going on in the background that people are unaware of, and he tries to explore that, and it gets him into a lot of trouble. So he's one of the characters as well. And then there's also a thief, and this is this boy that lives in a fair, in a traveling fair, and they go from city to city and they sell their goods. And he's also a bit of a kleptomaniac, and he steals stuff obviously, and that gets him into a bit of trouble. And yeah, he's also very one of the humorous characters, more humorous characters. And there's also this servant. He's also a traitor. This boy that serves another king in another kingdom, and he is Well, I think that he's been treated well by the king, but recently he has learned about some of the king's actions regarding his people, and he's really not happy about that, and he's determined to get his revenge. So, um, you know, every character has his agenda, and throughout the book we follow their separate stories, and we get to see the bigger picture through their stories, and towards the end they get intertwined, and they're all in trouble basically. So yeah, all in all, I did enjoy it. I previously read her Have Bad book, but never continued on with that series, and I think this one I prefer to that one. So I am planning to continue on with the series anyway. So I think the second book comes out in August, so I'm looking forward to seeing how things progress. And then the last book, which was obviously I think my favorite book, and it fulfilled the challenge of taking a bubble bath. And for that I had to read a book over 400 pages, and this definitely fulfilled that, and that is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This is book 1 in her trilogy. It's a very popular book on BookTube, and I've had it for a year since it came out, and I don't know, I just never wanted to pick it up, but I'm very happy that I did, because I did enjoy it quite a lot. So this is a Middle Eastern sort of fantasy. I'm very much clueless when it comes to their folklore and mythology and everything, so I'm not sure how accurate things are portrayed, but I've really enjoyed exploring this book and this world. And we follow this girl called Nahri. She's basically a fortune teller, a healer, a thief, a pickpocket. She's basically everything, and she lives in Cairo, and she gets into a bit of trouble, and she accidentally summons a jinn, and that's, sort of she's not happy about that, but she's also in trouble, and he is determined to save her. So they travel together to this city that she's never heard about called Devabad, where her people are supposed to live, because she's apparently not quite as human as she thought. She has a bit of magic that she wasn't aware of, but she also doesn't believe in magic, so things were confusing there. But we follow her as they make their way to that city, and there's a lot of danger in between, and she also learns a lot about her, well, not necessarily parentage, but the history of her people and where she comes from. And yeah, we also follow another character called Ali, and he lives in that city. He's the ruler's son, and he's he's studying to serve his brother, and he's great with this certain weapon, and he's very interested in the human world, and he's pretty well educated, and he also has very set impressions and ideas, and he has some prejudices that are not necessarily necessary for him, because he has these ideas about things that happened so long before he actually was even born. So it's funny how these things last anyways. And yeah, we get to follow these two characters, well, 3 and more characters, but these are the POV characters, and together we explore this world. I would classify this as an adult fantasy, definitely not young adult. I mean, the characters are around in their 20s, and some things that are depicted are pretty gruesome. But it's somewhere in the middle of those two age groups, and it's also pretty political. I started to listen to this book, and I was basically halfway through, and I was just lost. I was so confused because I wasn't focusing as I should, and I wasn't certain what was actually going on, so I decided to go back and reread it physically, so I would not be as clueless as I was and confused. And it's very political. We follow these different groups, and they all have different agendas, and you sort of have to connect everything. And all in all, I really enjoyed it. I already ordered book 2, so I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that one. And yeah, it was a solid read, and I think it was definitely my favorite out of the 4 books. And then probably Arabella, and then the rest of those that I read, but this was definitely my favorite read, and I do recommend it. But yeah, those were all the books that I managed to read in June. I have great plans for July, although, again, way over ambitious. But it's fun to have a lot of options, and then see what you manage to read, and just do your best. Anyways, this is it for this video. Thank you for watching and see you in my next one. Bye!